Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Jacqueline MacInnes Wood stood in her meticulously decorated nursery, her fingertips tracing the beautiful needlework on a tiny pink blanket. The room was a haven of soft pastels, with lavender walls covered with charming paintings of dancing fireflies and whispering willows, and a crib made from reclaimed oak that she'd chosen herself during a rare weekend getaway to the country. It was supposed to be a haven for her daughter, the little girl she'd envisioned after 4 rambunctious boys. Rise, Lennox, Brando, and Valor. They were her untamed kingdom, her roaring lions, and their laughter reverberated like thunder throughout their enormous mansion. But this, the 5th miracle, was to serve as a subtle counterpoint, a soothing melody to their symphonic composition. She'd announced the pregnancy in her newsletter 3 months ago, when she was nearly 7 months along, and her words were brimming with that trademark blend of tenderness and strength. "A little secret we've been keeping," she'd written, her hand resting on the bulge of her belly in the accompanying photo. Elon, her husband and anchor, smiling beside her with his serene, knowing stare. Fans of the bold and the beautiful flooded her Instagram with heart emoticons and prayers, while other soap actors sent handmade onesies embroidered with Forester crests. "Finally, a princess for the Ruspoli castle," one user said. Jacqueline had giggled as she scrolled through the messages late at night, as Elon slept, her body heavy with the prospect of a new beginning. But, as she learned in these shadowy hours, joy was a frail thing, quickly destroyed by fate's brutal mathematics. Aria was called after the ethereal songs Jacqueline loved to chant during long shoots, her voice a soothing thread weaving through the tumult of Steffi's dramatic arcs. The baby had arrived early, 2 weeks ago in the sterile silence of Cedars-Sinai's NICU. Aria Rose Ruspoli, her father's dark hair already teasing the rims of her tiny, translucent ears, and her mother's intense blue eyes, wide and unblinking in that first, gasping moment. The physicians were optimistic at first. "She's a fighter," they'd claimed, wrapping her in a maze of wires and sensors that beeped like a mechanical lullaby. Jacqueline had spent those first few days in a state of weariness and elation, pumping milk in the shadowy corners of the hospital room while Elon negotiated with the boys' nanny to keep their world stable at home. Rise, 6, had drawn a picture of a newborn sister riding a unicorn through the stars. Lennox, 4, had asked whether she could play soccer yet. Brando, 3, and Valor, nearly 2, crawled into her lap, their small hands pressing against her still soft abdomen, as if they could summon their sister, with pure willpower. The shadows first appeared on the 5th night. Jacqueline awoke to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand, a private line designated for family emergencies. Elon's voice on the other end was a brittle whisper, lacking of his characteristic warmth. "Come now, Jack. It's not good." She arrived in minutes, the road a whirl of red taillights and her own rapid gasps, the rain reflecting the storm gathering in her chest. The NICU nurse greeted her at the door, her expression a mask of practiced empathy. "We're doing everything we can," she said softly, taking Jacqueline to the incubator where Aria lay, little than a loaf of bread, her chest rising and falling in faint, rebellious rhythms. The following morning, a significant and unexpected congenital cardiac problem was diagnosed. They dubbed it hypoplastic left heart syndrome, a disorder in which the heart's left side fails to develop properly, causing the frail organ to pump blood with only half of the equipment required. Scans during the pregnancy revealed nothing. Ultrasounds depicted perfection, with a fluttering heartbeat as strong as a drum. But genetics, the quiet saboteur, had different plans. "We caught it late," the cardiologist said, his voice clinical above the hum of machinery. "Surgery is our best option, but at 32 weeks, the risks are high." Jacqueline nodded through the haze, her mind splintering. She remembered her own childhood in Canada, the endless summers by the lake where she'd learned to swim against the current, her mother's voice calling from the shore. Stronger than the waves, Jackie. Elon had also been her rock during the births of their sons, holding her hand through the inductions, the epidurals that didn't quite work, and the moments when doubt clawed at the edges of her resolve. Now he sat alongside her in the vinyl chair, his hand around hers, but his eyes were distant, haunted by what-ifs that neither dared to express. The surgery was set for the next day at dawn. Jacqueline refused to leave the hospital that night, cuddling up in the recliner with a pillow that smelled like antiseptic and hope. She sang to Aria through the incubator's plastic shield, her voice trembling on the high notes of an old folk song her grandmother had taught her. Hush now, my love. The moon is your blanket. The stars are your guard. Elon joined in softly, his baritone a grounding force, but his words faltered halfway through, choked by a sob he tried to swallow. In that moment, the weight of their shared anguish was physical, as heavy as the monitor's relentless beeping. The lads arrived the next afternoon, escorted by Elon's sister in a flutter of excitement and bewilderment. Rise clutched a bouquet of faded daisies he'd chosen from the neighbor's yard. Lennox carried a toy giraffe, its neck stretched out from too many embraces. Brando toddled behind, a sippy cup dangling from his grip, and Valor, sensing the shift, clung to his brother's leg, silent for once. Jacqueline knelt at their level in the family area, drawing them into a circle of warmth amidst the frigid fluorescence. "Your sister's very brave," she said quietly, her voice steady for their sake. "Just like you all are when you climb the big slide at the park." Rise's bottom lip quivered. "Is she gonna come home with us? Like, for pancakes on Sunday?" At 6, he was old enough to see the edges of loss, like how his goldfish swam belly up last summer, its colors fading to gray. Jacqueline swallowed the lump in her throat. "We're fighting for that, buddy. Every day." They sketched images, the four of them stretched on the linoleum floor, crayons scattered like fallen leaves. Lennox drew a heart with wings, while Brando added squiggles of scarlet, calling it magic medicine. Valor scrawled over everything, his laughter a brief, piercing brightness in the darkness. But when the sun sank low, sending long shadows across the blinds, the call came. The procedure had gone as smoothly as could be expected, with tiny valves redirected and the heart repaired with stitches finer than spider silk. However, difficulties emerged throughout the recuperation process, including an internal and rapid bleed that no amount of care could stop. Aria's body, which had been so resilient, began to falter. Jacqueline dashed to the apartment, Elon following close behind, and the lads shuttled back home, promising ice cream and stories later. She arrived in the incubator as the team worked in a controlled frenzy, paddles charging and voices overlapping in a chorus of desperation. "Stay with us, little one," the lead nurse said softly, her hands steady on the chest compressions. Jacqueline placed her palms to the glass, forcing her strength through the barrier, her thoughts returning to the first ultrasound, a fuzzy vision of a gummy bear tumbling in fluid blackness. "You are my heart," she murmured, hot tears running down her cheeks. Elon placed his arms around her from behind, his breath rattling on her hair. "She's ours, Jack. No matter what." The code lasted 20 torturous minutes. Then there was silence, a gap that enveloped the entire room. The doctor turned, his expression filled with anguish. "Time of death, 4:17 p.m. Jacqueline's legs buckled, but Elon supported her, their bodies becoming a single pillar against the collapse. She reached through the incubator's port, her fingers caressing Aria's chilled cheek, petals soft and unmoving. The curls were moist with sweat, and the blue eyes closed in eternal peace. In that touch, she felt the echo of every kick and flutter that had bridged the gap between them over those 9 months of whispered fantasies. The days that followed became hazy and colorless. Funeral arrangements were a matter of routine, a little funeral in the hillside chapel where she had married Elon 7 years before, beneath a canopy of oaks whispering condolences in the wind. Aria's casket was white oak, no bigger than a hope chest, and ornamented with daisies from Rise and a single pink rose from Jacqueline's garden. The boys came dressed in their Sunday best, their little features serious masks of wisdom beyond their years. "She's in the stars now," Rise explained later, pointing to the dusk sky as they drove home. "Watching us play." Jacqueline nodded, her throat too hard to speak, but in her heart, she held on to that vision of Arya as a constellation, glittering guardian over their divided family. Back home, the nursery had become a ghost room, with the door ajar as an unconscious invitation to grief. Jacqueline wandered in at strange hours, clutching the blanket to her chest and savoring the faint scent of new linen, which remained like an unfulfilled promise. Elon discovered her at midnight, rocking empty-handed in the glider. "We have to pack it away," he whispered softly, kneeling before her. "Not forget, but make space." She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How do we make space for this hole, Elon? It's everywhere." He drew her closer, their foreheads touching, their breaths mixing in the silence. "We fill it with us, with the boys, with the life we still have." They talked then, for the first time without distraction, about the worry that had shadowed her pregnancy, the subtle disquiet she had dismissed as first-time mom nerves with a daughter on the way. "I wanted her so much," Jacqueline admitted, her voice a thin whisper. "To braid her hair and teach her to navigate the world's sharp edges with grace and fire, just as I did on set." Elon traced the lines of her palm, which bore a slight scar from a prop disaster years ago. She knew that love, Jack, in every beat of her heart. The lads, resolute in their innocence, became unintentional healers. Rise created sister story time every evening, gathering his brothers on the living room rug to tell stories about Arya's travels in a candy cloud realm. Lennox began sketching star maps, using a gold crayon to highlight Arya's spot. Brando, ever the mimic, would touch Jacqueline's cheek with sticky fingers, proclaiming, "No cry, mama." Hug, Valor, with his babbling that bordered on song, toddled after her like a tiny shadow, his chuckles a salve on the rough edges of her soul. But morning is a lone traveler, and Jacqueline's evenings were its territory. She lay awake alongside Elon, staring at the ceiling fan's slow spin, rehearsing the what-ifs like a looping reel. What if the scans had detected it? What if they had picked a different facility or specialist? The remorse was a vine that grew tighter with each morning. During the day, she returned to the set, where Steffi Forrester's world of treachery and redemption stood out against her own subdued palette. Her co-stars rallied around her. Catherine Kelly Lang, who gave her maternal hugs and thermoses of chamomile tea, and Don Diamant, who cracked soft jokes about Forrester family expansions to get her to smile. But in the stillness between takes, when the cameras stopped rolling, she'd slip into the dressing room, door locked, and let out ugly, guttural screams that left her empty and hollow. Jacqueline lingered in the makeup chair one afternoon, following a particularly difficult scene in which Steffi confronted Hope about Finn's misdeeds. Maria, a grandmotherly woman with silver-streaked hair and overly keen eyes, paused mid-brushstroke. "You carry it like armor, child," she remarked quietly. "But armor cracks. Let it." Jacqueline met her eyes in the mirror, the reflection marred by unshed tears. "I don't know how to stop fighting for her." Maria placed down the sponge, her hands heated on Jacqueline's shoulders. "Grieving isn't surrender. It's the fight that honors her." That night, inspired, Jacqueline began journaling, pages upon pages in a leather-bound book Elon had given her for their anniversary. She wrote Arya letters with descriptions of the boys' antics, pieces from her newsletter subscribers' condolence notes, and recipes for the lavender scones she'd make when the sorrow subsided into discomfort. Today, Rise scored a goal in soccer. One entry stated, "He dedicated it to you, kicking the ball so hard it sailed over the goalie's head." We laughed until our sides hurt, and for a moment, the sky felt a little less empty. The deed became ritual, a bridge over the gap, turning pain into tale. Fall turned into winter, and the city was enveloped in a chill that seeped through cracks in the windows. Holidays loomed like specters, Thanksgiving with Elon's loud Italian clan, and Christmas with her parents, who flew up from Toronto. Jacqueline dreaded the vacant place at the table, the unwrapped presents that would never arrive. But the lads, with their unfettered wonder, reframed everything. They strung popcorn garlands for a star tree in the backyard, with lights sparkling on the branches in honor of Arya. She's the brightest one, Lennox declared, pointing to Orion's belt. Elon made a star-shaped decoration from her crib's oak scraps, engraved it with her name, and hung it aloft where the wind chimes played lullabies. Jacqueline's peaceful faith, woven from yoga mats and meditation cushions, served as her compass throughout. She rejoined her pregnant group, now a circle of widows in waiting, and shared stories beneath the canopy of a community center oak. Sarah's twins were stillborn, and Miguel was grieving a miscarriage at 20 weeks. Their words weaved a tapestry of survival. The pain doesn't leave, but it learns to sit beside you. Jacqueline talked haltingly at first, then with increasing conviction, her actress grace channeling raw truth. She was real, she stated one evening, her voice firm. Her kicks, her hiccups, they etched themselves into me. And that love, it doesn't end with breath. Spring arrived tentatively, buds unfurling on the jacaranda trees lined their street, purple blossoms coating the sidewalks like confetti from a forgotten party. Jacqueline's body, still with the softened contours of pregnancy, began to regain its rhythm. Runs along the beach at morning, the sea air cleaning her lungs. She began her newsletter with honesty, not platitudes. Grief is a thief, but it leaves gifts in its wake, deeper bonds, fiercer gratitude. Subscribers responded en masse, their own stories of loss forming a chorus of sympathy. One letter from a fan in Ohio included a tiny silver necklace with a heart charm and a note inside, for areas light, to wear close to yours. Elon, too, found his footing in the rebuilding. He started woodworking in the garage and made toys for the boys, including a wooden train set with vehicles painted in Aria's favorite nursery mural colors. The rhythmic rasp of sandpaper served as their nightly soundtrack, a moving meditation. One night, while sawdust swirled in the lamplight, he looked at her. "I was so afraid I'd lose you to this," he acknowledged, his voice raspy. "But you're here, Jack. Stronger." She crossed the space and drew him into an embrace that smelled of pine and promise. "We're both still here. That's the miracle." The boys matured as children do, their anguish transforming into maturity. Rise created a lemonade stand to generate money for the Children's Hospital, with a sign for Aria's Angels, hearts that help. Lennox began dancing, his small feet twirling in a tutu made from pink silk remnants that Jacqueline embroidered. Brando discovered drums and began pounding out sounds that matched Aria's imagined heartbeat. Valor, the silent observer, collected fireflies in jars each summer and released them at dusk with a murmured "Fly to Sissy." 2 years passed in this careful repair. Jacqueline's career flourished, with Steffi's plot deviating into redemption arcs that match her own, earning her another Daytime Emmy nomination. She poured Aria into advocacy, collaborating with the American Heart Association on awareness campaigns and putting her face on billboards with the motto, "Every beat counts." The work filled the void, transforming personal grief into public purpose. However, anniversaries remained thorns. July 15th, Aria's birth date, and September 23rd, her death date, now inscribed in the calendar like a scar. On the 2nd, Jacqueline gathered the family to the beach, the same length of sand where she had walked pregnant, hand in Elon's, daydreaming aloud about family picnics and seashell searches.